Good morning. Good morning with Michael is here. It is no longer morning, it is afternoon. That what I was stumbling over. But let's get started here. Mornings with Michael is for information and educational purposes only. We start with crypto, where we always start. Ethereum seems to be heading up. Pulled back to 32.65 and now is bouncing. And then we can head over here to Bitcoin. Bitcoin did go up to, I believe it was 69, almost 70, and had a big sell-off. I'm not sure if Mt. Gox, if U.S. government has started selling, but we have definitely had a big sell-off here. Let us go over to our word of the day. Anima is our word of the day. Anima is in Jungian psychology, the feminine part of the man's personality. In philosophy, the soul, especially the irrational part of the soul, is distinguished from the rational mind. Steve started to get in touch with his anima through playing with his daughters. So that is our word of the day. Let's go to our S&P 500 heat map. We'll refresh this, make sure we're looking at the right data. Some of the tech area tried to bounce back. Tesla got a pretty high rating, best in class in the auto sector. Amazon, Google bounced back, no move in Meta. Got a mixed bag in financials. Energy is pulling back. Materials, utilities, and real estate were up. So that is the story there. Let us go over to our charts, but before we do that, this is something you want to consider. If you're worried about hard landing, soft landing that lasts for a long time, this is what you may want to consider. Goes up when the market goes up, keeps going up steps, where this may zig and zag, and you can see it considerably beats by about 5% per year. And currently they're offering 45% bonuses on new money coming in. So that is the story there. Let us go over to our charts. This is our ETF of the day, real estate, getting a little bump with the hopes of interest rates coming down. This is our stock of the day. I had taken my eye off of this. I should have put an alert, and look what I missed. Went up 46% today. Shame on me. And our IPO of the day is Ardent Health Partners. Looks like the health area is picking up kind of interest. It's up almost 1% for the day. Over to our dollar index. Dollar index popped up 0.28%. Silver did sell off down to 25 and then bounced, down 0.16%. Gold pulled back a little bit as well. Take a look at it. Uranium pulling back a little bit. Copper pulls back to the 200-day moving average, down 0.43%. And let us go over to our bond yields. Bond yields are pulling back a little bit more, off about 0.5%, down to 4.18% yield on the 10-year. On the 20-year, pull back almost a full percent, down to 3.33% yield. And let's go take a look at the VIX. VIX is warming up again. Got a little bit of a bounce, up 1.28% to 16.60. Thought this was going to pull back a little bit more, but we still have time. We didn't put a time period on that pullback. And S&P 500, pretty flat for the day. RSP, this is up pretty good. The equal weight in the S&P. Look like we got a little handle bounce from the 20-day moving average, up 0.14%. The NASDAQ bounce 0.2%. The equal weighted in the NASDAQ is up 0.34%, still below its 50-day moving average. IWM, or small cap, is pulling back to the 2-day moving average, off 1.1%. And the Dow Jones is off 0.11%. We said Tesla was named top pick in the US autos at Morgan Stanley, replacing Ford, citing 40% upside to the firm's $310 price target. So we got a little gap up to the 20-day moving average. We'll see if it fills this gap. And on to energy, industrials and materials. Lilium files a $250 million mixed security shelf, pulling back. Occidental Petroleum agreed to sell Delaware basis assets in Texas and New Mexico to Permian Resources for about $818 million. Said it has separately completed other asset sales totaling about $152 million. Permian Resources announced strategic bolt-on acquisition of core Delaware Basin assets for $817.5 million. And got a little bit of bounce up, 0.13% on that news. Financials, Lowe's reports Q2 EPS $1.67 versus $1.58 last year. Q2 revenue $4.27 billion versus $3.93 billion. Tried to move up and then got sold into, so it's down 1.5%. NASDAQ announces launch of secondary offering of 41,604,207 shares, 41,604,207 shares, with Goldman Sachs acting as a sole book running manager as offering as shareholder. Thoma Bravo to offer 41.6 million shares. And with this news, NASDAQ is pocketing out of a pivot here. Got a gap up here, and it's just continuing up. On New York Mortgage Trust, files for mixed shelf up to 300 million, selling off on the news, down 2%. On to healthcare, Abbott had a bad day, was ordered by a jury to pay almost 500 million over allegations that it hid the risk that its premature infant formula can cause a potential fatal bowel disease, according to lawyers for the mothers who won the first case against the company to go to trial. Shares of rival Reckitt Benckiser, RBGPF, this must be overseas, are down as well in the court ruling. Inspire Medical guides preliminary Q2 revenues 195.9 million, tops consensus of 186.4 million. It's up 6.22% today. I guess we'd have to take a look at the 60-minute just to see this. Is bouncing over here. Looks like it actually sold off over here and then it bounced. So that is the story with them. Hard to see this up 6.22%, but let's take their word for it. Looks like it bounced over here. Came back to the declining 20-day moving average. Integra Life Sciences reported Q2 EPS of 63 cents versus 62. Big sell-off, down over 19%. Nuvasive won a partial victory in an inventor's lawsuit over spinal implant technology, even as a federal judge in Delaware left a central question for a jury to decide. And it looks like this is coming up. On to Sarepta Therapeutics demanded a prominent patient advocacy organization censor a video that contained a pointed criticism of the company's recently approved gene therapy for Duchenne muscular dystrophy. Stat has learned. So this is trending down, popped up 1.24%, went up gapped up higher, but then sold off towards the rest of the day. On to Amazon, technology, media, and telecom area. Amazon paid dearly $1 billion to acquire Twitch in 2014, and now a decade later, the retail giant has received little financial return from this acquisition, the Wall Street Journal reports. And Amazon is up 0.38%. And finally, Alibaba, shares moving higher earlier, and they gap up here. And now at new measures to charge a 0.6 service fee on both Taobao and Tmall merchants starting in September is a positive for revenue of 2.73%. So that is the story there. Let us go to what is up 10%. PHG, Conan Clige, Phillips ADR. Pretty hard for me to pronounce that, but it's up 13% on earnings, increased 9%. In semiconductors, on semiconductor gaps up on its earnings. They're down 28%, but it gaps up 11. It's up for the day 11.54%, and after the gap up. And the other one, of course, was SERV. Serves me right for not putting target on here. So that is the story. And now let us continue on. Take a look what we did. Sold NNE this morning. And we got into what we would call our IPO of the day. IPO of the day is up 1%. Take a look at a couple other things that currently doing. Dutch Brothers up slightly. We'll see if we can get above this 50-day moving average. Toast. The restaurant stocks are bouncing a little bit, up 1.25%. Kava gets above its declining 10-day moving average. So it's kind of between the 10 and 20 right now, up 3.29%. Samsara is pulling back a little bit here to the 10-day moving average today. A lot of things were pulling back. You put on Dreamfinder Homes in the home builders area, pull back slightly. There's a slight gap, so it looks like it has filled that gap. Fastly was up earlier, and then it pulls back about 1.71%. We moved into the pivot, and now it's pulled back. Even though a number of aviation, if I spelled Howmet wrong. Howmet is up slightly, it's working on a base. Archer continues to pull back. After clearing the 200-day moving average, is now pulled back to the 20-day. So we'll have to see if we keep that option on. NVIDIA continues to retrace off another 1.3%. I believe Microsoft is up slightly, up 0.34%. Amazon up slightly. We looked at that in the news. Apple up slightly, 0.13%. Meta, it's pretty flat. Google up 1.5%. We did Tesla and Eli Lilly. Close the day up 0.39% after pulling back for most of the day. So where were the winners today? ARDT was a winner. Southern in the utility area was a winner. We may decide to add to this. CrowdStrike got a little bit of a bounce. Up 1% today. Front Door had a really nice move here strongly into the pivot. So we took profits on 2 of the options and we kept 3 of the other ones in the tank. FTI broke out of the pivot zone here. The oil and gas machinery equipment. And we looked at Brothers and Kava, so that kind of wraps up what we're looking at. Now, if we want to take a look at the Darvas box method, this is kind of what it looks like. Nicholas Darvas said that if something bounced out of the box area, it would be a buy. So 27.40, according to William O'Neill, devised the buy principles. This company, we're using their charts. 27.40 would have been the buy on FTI. And it continues to kind of follow the 10-day moving average up here. Did have one day where it pulled back to the 20-day and then bounced. So we'll continue to watch this one. We're kind of watching in the aviation area, Aero Environment, FTAI, Howmet, and Archer. So and then GE continues to stay in the pivot area, which is good news. And that's kind of wraps up Mornings with Michael for today. For information and educational purposes only. Hope everybody have a great day, a great week. Continue to go out there and work on your goals and your activities. And we will catch you up on Taco Tuesday. Have a great day, everyone.